So there's been a lot of discussion lately about Murderwing and their status in the game. Are they too broken? Are they too messed up? And I think that they are a very good opportunity to discuss some higher level gameplay, some more complex, more maybe unfun, unpleasant tactics that higher level players abuse and will abuse, and that Murderwing is specifically very good at. I think what I want to talk about here is how Murderwing at a like average player level, and people having fun and trying to interact with each other, is probably just a slightly too strong team. But when played in a kind of cringe, unfun, uninteractive, turbo competitive sweat nerd way, the way that people like me play, it is what it is. If you're really trying to win, the things that Murderwing can do and the sort of concepts they can abuse are just so powerful that the team pushes itself basically into almost unbeatable territory by breaking some core fundamental rules. Now, for the most part, I'm going to actually focus on teaching you some of these complex fundamental mechanics that you can abuse with any team, and then we're going to talk about why Murderwing is just so good at abusing them. So, the first thing we need to talk about is the concept of non-reciprocal threat. It's a fairly straightforward concept, but it's one that a lot of people will miss because it's one that's kind of weird and feels sometimes a bit gamey. But to explain it in the simplest terms, if we have a space marine here, pretend he's not got a jetpack, we've got a little gunner here, and he wants to charge someone and fight them. If they are far away enough, he can't do it. So, in this case, this person needs to be slightly more than 8 away, like this. And now, well, yes, this guy can shoot them, they can't charge them. So, for example, if then this here cover concealed, this guy here, he cannot reach them with a charge if he wants to charge and fight them. They're too far away. And then if this person, if we pretend that they're an Eldar, for example, so get rid of this little pistol here, and grab a little Eldar here. This Eldar here can actually, because of their extra movement, charge the Space Marine. So, as you can see, they can move their 8 inches plus 9 inch charge, plus 1 inch here. They're in combat. On the other hand, Space Marine, if he wants to charge, can't make the charge. It's going to be outside of 1 inch here, as you can see. More than an inch between. This is the most basic level of non-reciprocal threat. Now, in this case here, this Space Marine could move, dash, and shoot. And so what I would explain this as is the difference between like true non-reciprocality and soft non-reciprocality. So when you have models like Space Marines, you want to be denying them the ability to charge and fight you. If they have a gunner, obviously they can move, dash, and shoot you. But a Space Marine with a chainsword and a pistol, if he move, dash, and shoots you with his bolt pistol, that's fine. Especially if you're a melee specialist who's then going to chop them to pieces, or if you've got like a better gunner there. This is soft non-reciprocality, and this is something that's very important to playing against something like Space Marines. If you just walk into Space Marines, which, fairly common, and they get to charge and fight and shoot, and they get to use all of their APL fighting as efficiently as possible, they get to basically run you down. So this is something that people will do to some extent subconsciously or without thinking about it. But when you start really wanting to play at a higher level, the concept of soft non-reciprocality and true non-reciprocality becomes very important. So here we had soft non-reciprocality. God, that's a mouthful. For true non-reciprocality, we might have a situation like this. We have this here gunner. He has +1 APL, so you can move, dash, shoot. And then we have a Space Marine that is more than 11 inches away from him. So here, this Space Marine, even if he moves and dashes 9 inches, isn't going to be able to shoot this guy. And this Kassakin here with move, can move 9 inches and shoot him. So even if the Space Marine is, let's say, in cover here, for example, this Kassakin can move far enough with his 10-inch move dash and shoot him. That would be an example of true non-reciprocality. And there are some other great examples of this. So, Blades of Cain, for example, are one of the examples of ultimate non-reciprocality. Pretend we have here a Blades of Cain model. Blades of Cain have an ability called Acrobatic that lets them ignore all vertical movement costs. So, in this case, this Space Marine down here has no way to reach and shoot this guy up here. But with Acrobatic, this Eldar here is able to charge 7 inches. Oops, that's got 3D measurement on. They're able to charge 7 inches like so, moving just like that, and is able to reach the Space Marine with the Space Marine being completely incapable of reaching him. So that's another example. So those are the basics of non-reciprocality in terms of threat in Kill Team. But the next step after that is some more layers to it. So one of the things that's a thing in Kill Team is that different models have different base sizes. So there are places where models on certain bases, for example, a 32mm base in this here spot, cannot fit through without climbing this terrain. So if our Space Marine here wanted to move through this corridor, he would have to climb, spending 2 inches of his movement to get across this. This essentially means that if a model with a smaller base, like a 25mm base here, which can fit through this gap, is standing here, this Space Marine has to be able to charge, or to be able to even reach them to shoot, be standing within 7 inches of them. So he would have to start somewhere here. And then obviously, well, this is too far away, so you have to be like so. Which means that it's really easy, obviously this is a very exposed position, to stay out of his range. Just be a little bit further back. And then on the other hand, again, this model here, thanks to its smaller base, if it wants to, let's say, charge him, has a whole heap of movement. Even though he can't reach them, they're easily able to reach him. And when you start seeing these little things, you can start abusing them. Again, this model here is completely safe. A model behind this has its threat range in terms of charging reduced all the way to here, as opposed to a smaller based model, which in the same position can move a full, well, they both climb. So, but imagine that they're not climbing this. They can move an 8-inch distance through this corridor. And then you might say, well, that's okay. They have to have these specific terrain features in these specific places. This isn't available anywhere. But the next layer of the non-reciprocality onion is terrain equipment. We have the ability as Kill Team players to produce non-reciprocality with our setups. So by placing things like barricades in the way of our opponent's models, we can create new non-reciprocalities, especially if we have smaller bases. So for example, if I'm playing on red side here, and I place this barricade here, I can fit my 25mm model through, and the Space Marine cannot. Suddenly, I now have that same reciprocality. Previously, this Space Marine would be able to move out 2 inches here, move forward, 6 or 7 inches, however much he needed, and get all the way to here, and shoot me, or fight me, or charge me, whatever he wanted to. Now, with this barricade slightly scooched over, he now needs to climb the barricade, meaning that the furthest he can go with a charge is to here. He can't even get to here. His charge will end here. He can't make it to me to shoot me, he can't charge me, and my model can freely move through this gap. This is something that you can create on basically any map. You can use barricades, you can use razor wire, and by doing this, you can create additional opportunities for non-reciprocal threat. This is very important if you're playing either Eldar teams or Horde teams against Space Marines, because Space Marines are on larger bases, and you really, there is a value to other pieces of equipment. But if you can make a charge or a shoot just not happen, this is the most valuable thing you can do, right? There is no dice rolling involved. If they can't make it, they can't make it. They can't shoot you, they can't charge you, they can't fight you. You can completely deny activity to your opponent and have the ability to strike first always. And this is really important because it just removes a lot of the dice from the game. Now, obviously, there is a limit to this for most teams because you have your own limitations in your movement. And generally, teams that are able to abuse this are generally weaker in, straight up fighting. Models that are on 25mm bases tend to not pack a lot of punch outside 1 or 2 models on any one of these teams. Something like a Melter Gunner or a Butcher with a power weapon for blooded, something like this. Generally, this is the sort of trade-off. You get these smaller bases, you get less power per base, but you abuse terrain, you can abuse non-reciprocality to get advantages and to deny your opponent. The final form of non-reciprocality comes from having a final activation. What do I mean? It's pretty simple. If I have models left, let's say I've got, 3 guys here, and someone charges and kills me, and these 2 have not activated, I can shoot him and kill him. If these 2 have activated and they're no longer ready, and this guy charges and kills my Pistolier, well, suddenly there's no threat. There's no one left to shoot him, and the turn ends, and he's able to do this action without any reciprocation, any sort of hit back. So, with all of that, let's talk about Murderwing, because they are a team that gets to abuse all of this while not suffering the regular penalties, right? So, normally, if I'm a Space Marine and I want to block stuff, I have to block myself. I have a 32mm or 40mm base. No one else really has bigger bases than me. But now that I'm playing Murderwing, I can do those exact same tricks where I block bases and movement completely, but I have my massive models that can also charge across all the way to here. Or, I mean, this is the obvious answer. If I put myself on this third story vantage, there's very few things that can hit me up here, and I have just access to your home objective. The second piece of this Murderwing puzzle is their TAC Op selection. They have access to Recon. Recon TAC Ops are very good. Primarily, retrieval. So what makes retrieval in general so good? So it has a few components. First of all, it's a mission that doesn't require you to do anything with your opponent other than control the objective from them. They have no control over what you do, you have total control of you scoring. This is why retrieval is a very powerful TAC Op, one of the best in the game, if not the best with the flank nerfs. Depends on your team, but generally retrieval is very, very strong. Murderwing have access to this TAC Op, and they are very good at it for a number of reasons. One, Murderwing is exceptional at objective control. The Shrieker is one of the best models in the game for stealing objectives off people. He can stun people, he reduces their control, and he can fly. Again, if I'm up here, I can just fly down here, and, you know, unless you have 4+ APL on this objective, something worth 4 APL, I can stun you, I can steal it, I can then retrieve and get my objective, my TAC Op. And this makes it very easy to score 5. Murderwing has additional synergy. The Warp Talon can just place his Warp Talon token, his Warp token, here, apparate with no risk to himself, and just fly out. This synergy with retrieval is a huge part of this team's strengths. Not only are they non-reciprocally threatening to kill your models, they are non-reciprocally threatening to score points. If I block every access you have to hitting me, and just sit around and do my retrievals, if you have TAC Ops that require you to kill my models, to fight on my objectives, to do any of these things, you're not scoring anything, and I can score all of my points. Importantly, retrieval has no limitations on how many points you can score in a turn. This means it is entirely possible to just score 6 points on the last turn of the game on this TAC Op without doing anything else in the other turns. This synergizes further with malicious narcissism. This ploy allows Murderwing to activate last always. No matter how many activations you have, they get the last say. No matter what you do, if you contest any of these objectives, they're going to be able to fly in, kill your model most likely, unless you're a Space Marine. And even if you are a Space Marine, they probably will still kill you. And you can do nothing to react to this. You cannot deny them, you cannot play safely, you cannot out-activate them as you normally would. This is a core part of the balance, is the ability for teams with higher activations to have last say. This is a huge, huge part of the game and of the way the game is balanced, and Murderwing just get to cheat that. They get these synergies with these TAC Ops, they get this ability to go last, they get this non-reciprocal threat. These are the core things that make Murderwing so strong. It's not the damage the operatives do or their tankiness, although they do a lot of damage. It's this safety that they have. So again, remember, I can get to here. You want to control this objective, you have to be either here, but then I can still shoot you potentially. Or if I have the Depredator, he can fly down, move dash, and spin. Or I'm just going to fly down here and steal your objective and stun you. And then you're stunned and I'm going to leave again. These options that this team has are pretty much unique to it. Like I said, if you're playing Blades of Cain, you can have one model fly 7 inches, no more. Can't charge 8, can only charge 7, doesn't get the bonus movement, and you can do that once a turn, maybe twice. Murderwing can do this 6 times, which means you either have to give up all of this space to them, where you cannot charge them and they can charge you, or you have to run into them and give them exactly the charges they want, because they get to choose and dictate the pace of the game no matter what. Because with terrain, again, if I want to defend here, for example, The places you can safely get your models up to, or even physically, if you're just running straight at me as like a normal team, you can maybe get to here. If there's barbed wire and barricades here, like if I'm defending from here or if I'm defending from up here, it's almost impossible for you to reach me. If you run in a straight line and just open yourself up to, getting shot from this vantage or getting potentially even just shot from the front. If you take the most risk possible, I can still just barricade you off. You're going to have to climb something. This guy has to climb this first, and then he can maybe get to here, and then he has to do a third climb potentially, or he has to charge and fight someone who's fighting first in the stronghold. This defensive play that Murderwing can do is so strong. And then the problem on the flip side is if you try to rush into them and overwhelm them, because of their damage, because of their reliability, and because of their mobility, they are extremely capable of switching straight from defense to offense. If you're playing this aggressively, they can just punish you. You still can't reach them. If they're up here, if he's up here concealed, unless you're playing one of the select few teams, and even then, if I tuck him in properly here, if he's in here, this does reduce his threat range. But if he's here, there is no one in the game who can really shoot him. You can maybe throw a stun grenade. There's like 1 or 2 weapons that still have True Seek in the game. But if you run up here and throw a stun grenade at me, that's fine by me. You've spent an entire activation. You've put yourself in this very exposed position to get rid of one of my APL 2/3 of the time. You've given up an equipment slot to do that. And you're standing here. You've not killed anyone. I'm just going to wait for you to be done, clear you off my objective, and then next turn, I'm going to sweep you because I've gotten this advantage in the board state from you doing this, and you could do nothing about it. Now, obviously, a lot of this is to an extent Volker-centric. If you're playing on Tomb World or Into the Dark, they don't have as much of this, I want to specify. They still have a lot of options. So, for example, if we go to Tomb World, here, depending on the map and, which side you get, you can still do a lot of dirty things. For example, if you set up with like a heavy barricade in this spot here and a razor wire like this, you can put your Chaos Lord here. He can now charge 8 inches across this barbed wire. And unless you have someone else with fly, they're going to need to pay 3 inches for this barbed wire. They need to go out 1. They're going to have 4 inches left, and they can't reach you. They can't even move, they can't even dash and shoot you. They could maybe, depending on where they start, go 1 inch, 2, 3, and then dash 3. This is extremely limited options in what you're able to do to threaten this. And if you get stunned, or if you get hit by anything else, and they don't even have to be here. They could just pop back here and last activation steal your point. The thing that's important is that there are creative solutions to the problems on Tomb World. And at the end of the day, they're still very powerful, high damage melee Space Marines on maps that can very, very easily favor them, playing attack op that is very good. But the main issue is, of course, that non-reciprocality on Volkers. So yeah, that's really it. I think it's important to understand that this is the strength of Murderwing. This non-reciprocality, this ability to control the pace of the game by doing things with terrain, by doing things with going last, by playing the retrieval and playing a very passive game. Because normally Space Marines are unable to do this. This is against Space Marines' core design. They generally do not get to go last. They generally do not get to play so passive and still score a lot of points. But we have a team that can. And this is why they are so, so good. Even on ITD. Because again, unless you're running your models straight to here, in which case you're risking getting hit by my Melters or whatever, or my Chaos Lord, and me falling back, you are so limited in your options. You're taking so many risks to get up to me. And there are things I can do, I can just sit on this door on guard. I can just start here, fly to here, guard this door. If you want to open this door on turn 1, you're going to get blown off. You're just going to die to the guard. And then I get to have the threat on here. I get to do all of the things Space Marines are good at. And even then, there are just things you can do with this team that you can't. And more importantly as well, on the other side of things, the thing you want to be doing on ITD as well as Volcus, when you're playing against Space Marines, is doing those exact things against them. Murderwing ignore one of the most important pieces of counterplay that Horde teams have against Space Marines, which is the abuse of terrain. Because Space Marines are so able to just blow their way through weaker models, almost guaranteed killing one, often killing two if they're able to reach you, it's important to have terrain as a counterpoint to that. To be able to set up places where you can be in an aggressive position, where you can punish them for their aggression without also losing all of your models. And Murderwing can just play in a way where they ignore that. They have the ability to cheat the weakness of Space Marines while being Space Marines. This is the core issue with the team. Now, they're not unbeatable on Toonworld. On Volcus, they probably are. Unless you get very lucky, they make some mistakes. Like, they can lose, but it's so unlikely if they play properly and controlled. And then on Toonworld, again, they're still extremely strong. Like, I said this before they came out, and I believe it till to this day. If you just released a team that was 5 assault intercessors with jetpacks and the captain, which, you can run that in this team, that's borderline an S tier team. That is the top tier team, especially on Volcus and probably still on ITD. And this team has that, and then it has a bunch of amazing ploys, including Narcissism, one of the best ploys in the game, if not the best ploy in the game, in a matchup where you're activated. Other good ploys, extremely powerful specialists. I'm not even going to talk about the Predator's massive, non-reciprocal, no, you don't get to roll attack dice when I charge you, threat of damage, that is so hard to stop. It is so hard to stage anywhere and not get hit by massive damage. But that's the obvious thing. It's obvious that this is, crazy hard to stop. But if we ignore this non-reciprocality that is at the core of the team, they're going to continue to be a problem forever. Because, okay, the Predator gets nerfed, that's fine. I still have other operatives that all fly, have amazing weapons. This is not, an issue with just one of the operatives being broken. It is, at its core, an issue with how Space Marines are currently balanced, the things that are meant to be counterplayed to them, and the fact that this team ignores it, and just the nature of the TAC ops as well. Because if you're on the other end of things, if you're playing things like Envoy, Plant Banner, any of the Seek and Destroy TAC ops, like Track Enemy or Steal Intelligence or Plant Devices, I guess Plant Devices maybe is okay. All of these things, the Murderwing player has total control over your ability to score them. You have no control over their ability to score retrieval. And then again, the same problem comes up as well in the crit op. If you are playing any crit ops that don't score at the start of a turn, you have problems. If you're playing transmission, they're going to last activation, they're going to come onto the point, they're going to kill you off of it, and they're going to take your transmission. If you're playing things like Orb, they're going to last activation, push the Orb onto you. If you're playing things like Stake Claim, you have to control objectives at the end of the turn. It's not going to happen. Energy cells, if they pick it up and fly away, you've got problems, right? Like, download, they can fly onto your objective with the guy who stuns you, steal it off of you, you can't score anything. These crit ops as well are just all very, very good for Murderwing. They synergize so well with what the team does at its core, and it doesn't matter that the team doesn't have great healing like Space Wolves or piercing reduction or the damage reduction of Death Watch. It doesn't matter that they're not as tanky as these teams and not as resilient as these teams, because they should not be taking damage until they've at least killed one model. And if they're playing really well, they're going to be, if you're a shooting team, hiding in combat. If you're a melee team, they're going to be setting up for Long Forgotten Honor. They're going to be just really, really hard to deal with. And they're going to be blocking your charges. Another example, if we want to talk about why they're so strong, it's melee teams. If we go, again, onto Volcus especially. If you're on Volcus, and it doesn't really matter which map. This is just a nature of the terrain. If you're playing as Murderwing here, and you're playing in something like Felgor, let's say, and you just place your models in a formation, something vaguely like this, you can basically make it physically impossible for a Felgor model to charge you. You can make it so that there's just nowhere for them to stand. Now, Felgor, at least they can throw their, deal some damage, stun grenade at you, which you kind of have to respect, but, if that's all they're doing to you and you're just sitting here and they can't even contest this, and it's also really hard to throw those things up at advantage. It's not 4 inches, horizontally, it's vertical. So it's very possible to not actually be in range to throw, even though it feels like you should be able to. And with good spacing, they can again make it really, really hard for you to charge. Since a 32mm base like Felgok cannot fit here, they cannot complete a charge here. And these two are not within 1 inch, so they're not getting splashed. So unless you have the movement to make it all the way to here, which with a 4-inch climb is really hard, you're not going to be able to charge them at all. Again, you can do a very similar thing on this terrain, depending on where the Felgor player is coming from. If they're coming from this side, you can put a model here, outside of one of each other, so they don't both get stunned. And now it's physically impossible for them to make a charge here. Where are they going to put their model? They're going to have to charge. If they're here, which is the best place to charge from, you have to go up 3. They're going to have to go all the way around here, and then all the way around here, and that's just not going to happen. That model's going to fall off the edge. If you actually want to be proper and really properly set this up, you probably want to be slightly back, like this. Can't fit there. Can't fit there. There is no charge to be had. The only teams that can do it are things on 28 mils, but even then, you can block them. And things like Mandrakes and things like this don't have damaging stun grenades. So you block them out. They can't charge you. Now, obviously, Mandrakes are going to throw a Blast Fireball here and kill both of these guys, but the point is that you have all of these options to deny the ability to take damage to your opponent, or to deal damage to your opponent. And if you use them properly, it's very, very hard to stop you. Now, if you play Murderwing as just a move, charge, fight team, or move, like shoot, if you play them in this aggressive manner, they're still a strong team, but they're a team that can lose. Importantly, Murderwing can be perfectly fine to play against if you do not abuse these tricks. And I think that it's really silly that they're able to do this. And I'm not going to play Murderwing. I don't feel good playing like this. But it's important to understand this, because I think this shows certain core aspects of the game that are worth understanding. And then Murderwing breaking them makes them so clear why they're important. So yeah, that's my general thoughts on why Murderwing is so strong, and a little lesson on non-reciprocal threats and this and that, and the current sort of state of attack ops as well to an extent, like why retrieval is so good, especially when it synergizes with these things. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening.